My name is Christopher, 35 years old, a construction worker living in the northern suburbs of Texas, a place with one of the most unforgiving climates in America. Summers are scorching, like being baked in an oven, and winters are brutally cold, cutting through skin and bone. Every day I wake up before the sun rises, pull on my worn-out boots, put on my hard hat, and drag myself to the construction site. The sound of hammers pounding, the roar of drills, the smell of concrete dust, that's my world, harsh and exhausting. But deep inside, I carry a small corner of myself that no one in my family bothers to notice. My love for painting. I grew up in a small house with peeling wooden walls in a tiny town where everyone knew each other. My family wasn't rich. My dad was a plumber, and my mom stayed home to take care of my two siblings and me. I'm the eldest, followed by my younger brother Danny and my middle sister Sarah, who left home long ago to get married. My parents always said I was the pillar of the family, the one who had to carry the weight. But looking back now, that title of pillar feels like an excuse for them to pile sacrifices on my shoulders without anyone bothering to acknowledge them. Painting came to me through my grandfather. He was an amateur painter who never sold a single piece, but every stroke of his brush seemed to hold his entire soul. I remember afternoons sitting by his side, watching him mix colors, listening to him talk about dreams he never got to fulfill. "You have the hands of an artist, Chris," he once said, placing a paintbrush in my hand. I was 10 years old then, and I believed I could paint the whole world. But that dream quickly faded. My grandfather passed away when I was 15. My mom cried until she had no tears left. My dad grew silent, and I quietly tucked the paint box into a corner of the closet. Things started getting tough at home. My dad lost his job for a while, and my mom had to take on extra work at a laundromat. I saw the look in their eyes whenever they stared at bills, heard the way they argued over money. I knew what I had to do. At 16, I dropped out of school and got a job as a laborer on a construction site. The meager wages I earned, I gave entirely to my mom, keeping only a few coins for bread. "You're doing great, Chris," she said, but her eyes never lingered on me for long. She was always busy worrying about Danny. Danny was the pride of the family. He was smart, excelled in school, and was constantly praised by his teachers. My parents believed he would go to college, that he would change the family's fortunes. I believed it too. Every month I sent half my wages home to pay for Danny's extra classes, his books, his exam preparations. I never asked my parents how they used the money. All I knew was that every time I came home, Danny had new clothes, shiny shoes, while I was still wearing the same tattered t-shirt with a torn shoulder from 2 years ago. I don't resent them. Not really. I just feel tired. Some nights, lying on an old mattress in the rented room near the construction site, I stare at the ceiling and imagine myself holding a paintbrush. I paint in my mind. Golden wheat fields, winding paths leading into forests, or the face of someone I've never met. Those paintings never become real. I don't have the time, the money, or even the courage to start again. But deep down, I know that without painting, I wouldn't be me anymore. Every time I visit home, the distance between me and my family grows wider. My parents ask a few half-hearted questions. "Is work going okay? Has your pay gone up?" I answer vaguely because I know they don't really care. They only want to hear about Danny, his grades, his plans for college, his bright future. I sit there in the house I sacrificed my youth to keep standing, feeling like a stranger. Once I secretly took out my grandfather's old paint box and tried sketching a few lines on a scrap of paper. My mom caught me and frowned. "You're grown up, Chris. Stop daydreaming. Focus on making a living." I gave an awkward smile and put the paint box away. But inside it felt like someone was strangling me. I wanted to scream that I have dreams too, that I want to live for myself too. But I didn't. I just lowered my head, as I always do, and walked out of the house. That Christmas I came home with a small bag of gifts, a cheap bottle of whiskey for Dad, a wool scarf for Mom, and an old book for Danny. I had saved up for a whole month to buy them, every penny earned from the construction site soaked in sweat. The road home was freezing, the Texas wind cutting through my thin jacket, making me shiver. But I still felt a warmth inside because I thought Christmas was a time for family to come together. Naively, I believed that. The little house was aglow with lights. Mom had set up a tiny Christmas tree in the corner of the room, decorated with sparkling ornaments that Sarah and I had made as kids. Dad was sitting in his armchair, telling Danny some story, both of them laughing heartily. Danny was now a sophomore at a prestigious university a few hours' drive from home. He was still the pride of the family, always mentioned by Mom and Dad with sparkling eyes. I walked in, set the bag of gifts down, and Mom gave me a quick hug. "Come eat, Chris, the food's getting cold," she said, then turned to call Danny. "Come here, sweetheart, try this cake I made." Dinner passed with laughter, but I didn't say much. I sat there listening as Mom and Dad asked Danny about school, about the projects he was working on at university. Danny spoke excitedly about a recent seminar he'd attended, about his dream of becoming an engineer. "He's going to make something of himself, Chris," Dad said, looking at me as if expecting me to nod in agreement. I nodded, but my heart felt heavy. I wondered if Mom and Dad ever spoke about me with that same pride. Or was I just the construction worker, the one who sent money home so Danny could live his dreams? After dinner, we opened gifts. Danny gave Mom and Dad each a small item, probably bought with money from his part-time job. I handed out my gifts and Mom smiled, thanking me cursorily. Then it was Dad's turn. He stood up, his face beaming, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. "Come outside, I've got a surprise," he said. He led us through the back door to the garage. The cold wind stung my face, but I didn't notice. All I saw was Dad pulling a tarp off a shiny red car, gleaming under the garage light. "It's for you, Danny," he said, patting my brother on the shoulder. "So you can get around easier at school." The whole family erupted in excitement. Danny jumped up and down, ran to hug Dad, then Mom, before leaping into the driver's seat and honking the horn loudly. Mom laughed until tears streamed down her face, and Dad nodded with pride. I stood there smiling, but my smile felt frozen. A car. I knew Mom and Dad had saved up all year to buy it. I knew because I had been sending money home month after month to help the family. But no one mentioned that. No one looked at me. Then Dad turned to me and handed me a small package wrapped in old newspaper. "This is for you, Chris," he said, his voice soft. I opened it slowly. Inside was a painting in a worn wooden frame, its colors faded with time. I recognized it immediately. It was one of Grandpa's, a field of wildflowers under a sunset sky. "It was your grandpa's," Dad said. "He treasured it. I thought you'd like it." I looked at the painting, then at Dad. He smiled, but his eyes darted away. I knew he was lying. That painting meant nothing to him. It was just something he pulled out to cover up the truth, that I was never treated fairly. A car for Danny, an old painting for me. My heart ached, as if someone were squeezing it. I wanted to scream, to ask why they treated me this way. Why were the years I sacrificed, the dreams I buried, not worth a single glance from them? But I just nodded and said, "Thanks, Dad." That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room looking at Grandpa's painting under the dim light. His brushstrokes were still vivid, as if telling a story I couldn't fully understand. I thought about the months I'd hunched over at the construction site, about the money I sent home so Danny could sit in that shiny red car. I thought about Danny, about the way Mom and Dad looked at him with eyes they'd never turned on me. My heart hurt, but mixed with that pain was a small, smoldering flame. I knew I couldn't keep living like this forever. The next morning I left early, taking the painting with me. I didn't say anything to Mom or Dad, didn't say goodbye to Danny. I just wanted to get out of that place, away from the feeling of being abandoned in my own family. On the bus back to my rented room, I held the painting heavy in my arms. I didn't know where it would lead me, but I felt somewhere Grandpa was watching me. And I told myself that even if just once, I would do something for myself. Back in my cramped rented room, I placed Grandpa's painting on the table next to an old flickering desk lamp. The weak yellow light shone on the wildflower field in the painting. making the faded brushstrokes seem to come alive. I stared at it, my heart a tangle of emotions. This painting was all I had from my family, but it was also a reminder of the unfairness I'd endured. I wanted to throw it away, but my hands wouldn't move. Something in Grandpa's brushstrokes held me back, refusing to let me turn away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through social media, something I rarely touched. An amateur art forum popped up in my recommendations. I don't know what I was thinking. My fingers just moved on their own, snapping a photo of the painting and posting it. "My grandpa's painting," I wrote, keeping it brief. Not sure if it's worth anything, just wanted to share. Then I tossed the phone aside, expecting nothing. Who would care about an old painting anyway? The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop, dozens of notifications from the forum. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I'd misread something. My post had over 100 likes and dozens of comments. "This painting is stunning," one person wrote. "The brushstrokes remind me of a Texas painter from the last century," another commented. My heart pounded as I read. Some asked if I'd sell it, others wanted to know more about my grandpa. I replied vaguely, hardly believing this was real. By noon, a private message stopped me in my tracks. The sender, Henry, introduced himself as an art collector from Dallas. "I'm really impressed with your grandpa's painting," he wrote. "I want to buy it. Name your price." I smirked, thinking it was a prank. But Henry messaged again, his tone serious. "I'm offering $10,000. If you agree, I'll come see the painting right away." $10,000? I sank into a chair, my head spinning. With that money, I could buy paints, enroll in an art class, maybe even take a few months off work to focus on painting. But sell Grandpa's painting? I wasn't sure I had the courage. I messaged back, trying to sound calm. "I need to think about it." Henry replied instantly, "No problem, but I'm serious. Let me know if you change your mind." I turned off my phone and looked at the painting. My heart was torn. Selling it felt like betraying Grandpa, but keeping it meant I'd remain just a construction worker, burying my dreams day after day. I thought about Christmas Eve, Danny's shiny red car and Dad's averted gaze. The fire inside me flared stronger than ever. 2 days later, the forum was buzzing. My post had spread beyond the group, shared across other art communities. A stranger, claiming to be an auctioneer, messaged me. "That painting might be worth more than you think. I'm holding a small auction. Would you like to join?" Before I could respond, Henry messaged again, his tone urgent. "I'm raising my offer to $200,000. Don't sell to anyone else." I froze. 200,000? The number felt like a dream, but also a trap. I started to doubt. Was this real or just a scam? I decided to meet Henry. I sent him the address of a coffee shop near the construction site and arranged to meet the next afternoon. That night, I held the painting and whispered to Grandpa in my mind, "What should I do?" I remembered the afternoons he taught me to paint, the look in his eyes when he spoke about art. But I also remembered the years I'd sacrificed, the dreams I'd suppressed. I knew if I didn't act, I'd be trapped forever. The next afternoon, I arrived at the coffee shop, the painting carefully wrapped in an old cloth. Henry was already there, a middle-aged man in a simple but elegant suit exuding quiet wealth. He stood up, shook my hand, and his eyes lit up when he saw the wrapped bundle. "May I see it?" he asked. I unwrapped the cloth and placed the painting on the table. Henry studied it, silent for a long moment. Then he looked up, his voice firm. "I'm offering $500,000 cash. If you agree, I'll bring the money tonight." I nearly dropped my coffee. $500,000? I stared at Henry, searching for any sign of a joke, but he was deadly serious. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "It's just my grandpa's painting." Henry smiled and said, "It's not just a painting. It's a legacy. Very few artists today could create something like this. I genuinely want to buy it." His words left me speechless. My mind went blank. Only the sound of my pounding heart remained. I nodded as if someone else were controlling me. "Okay, tonight," I said. That evening, I sat in my rented room, the painting still on the table, bathed in the yellow glow of the lamp like a farewell. I couldn't believe this was happening. $500,000. The number was so immense it scared me, as if it might vanish, like a dream dissolving when I opened my eyes. I checked my phone constantly, waiting for a message from Henry. Every sound outside the door made me jump, thinking it was him arriving, or worse, someone coming to snatch this opportunity away. At exactly 8 p.m., there was a knock. I opened the door, my heart pounding. Henry stood there alone, carrying a sleek black suitcase. "I keep my word," he said, stepping inside. He opened the suitcase, revealing neatly stacked bundles of cash, the crisp smell of new bills filling the air. I'd never seen so much money. "Count it if you want," Henry said, his tone gentle, as if he knew I was overwhelmed. I shook my head, not daring to touch it. "I trust you," I said, though I wasn't even sure I believed it myself. Henry picked up the painting, looking at it one last time. "Are you sure?" he asked. I nodded, though my heart ached like it was being torn apart. I saw Grandpa in every brushstroke, the afternoons he taught me to paint. But I also saw my future for the first time as clear as daylight. I handed the painting to him. Henry nodded, closed the suitcase, and left it on the table. "Good luck, Christopher," he said, then walked out. The door shut, and the room fell silent. It was just me and the suitcase of money. That night, I didn't sleep. I opened the suitcase, touching each stack of bills to convince myself it was real. I thought about what I could do. Buy paints, enroll in a course, rent a small studio to paint. I thought about days without hunching over at the construction site, about the paintings I would create. My heart felt light, but also heavy. I had sold a piece of Grandpa, a piece of myself, but I told myself he would understand. He would want me to live, truly live. The next morning, I went to the bank and deposited the money. The bank teller stared at me like I was an alien when I handed over the suitcase. "Did you win the lottery?" she joked. I just smiled, not answering. With that money, I began to change my life. I cut back my hours at the construction site, keeping just enough shifts to get by. I enrolled in an evening painting class at a local art center where people like me, late-blooming dreamers, gathered. The first time I held a paintbrush after all those years, my hand trembled, but it felt like coming home. I also stopped sending money to my parents. For the first time in my life, I kept it for myself. I didn't call home, didn't text. I wanted them to manage on their own, the way I had for years. But I didn't expect that decision to plant a bomb, waiting to explode. A month later, Mom called. Her voice was urgent, tinged with anger. "Chris, why aren't you sending money anymore? Danny needs tuition and your dad's back is acting up. He can't work much." I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. "Mom, I have my own life too. I can't keep carrying the whole family." There was silence, then she spoke, her voice cold. "Since when did you get so selfish, Chris?" I hung up, my hand shaking. Her words cut like a knife, but I didn't regret it, not anymore. I started painting every day, every night. My paintings were full of color, full of pain and hope. I painted Grandpa's fields, paths I'd never walked, and myself, a construction worker reclaiming his dreams. The art class connected me with new people, people who didn't know my past but saw me as a painter, not a failure. For the first time in 35 years, I felt like I was living. But I knew my family wouldn't let it go. I could sense a storm coming, though I didn't yet know how it would hit. Each night I looked at the empty suitcase that once held $500,000 and asked myself, did I do the right thing? Would Grandpa forgive me? And if my family turned their backs, would I have the strength to keep going alone? 2 months had passed since I enrolled in the painting class, and my rented room had become a small art studio. The walls were covered with my paintings, wildflower fields, misty trails, the face of someone I'd never met. The soft yellow light of the lamp illuminated each brushstroke, reminding me that I was alive, truly alive. The evening painting class at the local art center had given me a new community. people who saw me as an artist, not the hunched-over construction worker. The $500,000 from Grandpa's painting had opened that door, but every night as I lay on my old mattress, I still heard echoes from the past. Then one afternoon, everything exploded. I was mixing paints in my room when I heard urgent knocking at the door. I opened it and froze. There stood Mom, Dad, and Danny unannounced. Mom wore an old sweater, her eyes red and puffy. Dad was grim, hands stuffed in his pockets. Danny stood with his arms crossed, his face hard. No one smiled. No one greeted me like a son or brother. "We need to talk, Chris," Dad said, his voice low but sharp. I nodded, though my heart pounded. I invited them in, gesturing to a few old chairs around the dining table. The small room suddenly felt suffocating, the air heavy like before a storm. Mom sat down, her eyes scanning the paintings on the walls, but she said nothing. Danny was different. He stepped forward, pointing at an unfinished painting, a field resembling Grandpa's. "Where'd you learn to paint like this?" he asked, his tone mocking. "From the family's money?" I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Tell me," I said, looking at Dad. "Why are you all here?" Dad cleared his throat, his gaze fixed on me. "We know about Grandpa's painting," he said. "You sold it, didn't you? Sold it for $700,000 at an auction." I was stunned. $700,000? I'd sold the painting to Henry for $500,000 and he'd promised to keep it confidential. How did they know? And where did the $700,000 figure come from? Danny stepped closer, glaring at me. "Don't play dumb, Chris. I saw it online. A friend at school told me about the auction. Grandpa's painting went for $700,000. You think you could hide it?" I shook my head, my mind reeling. Maybe rumors from the art forum had spread, inflated into a false number. But I didn't have time to explain because Mom spoke, her voice trembling. "Chris, how could you? That painting belonged to the whole family. You took the money, abandoned your parents, abandoned your brother. How could you be so selfish?" Her words cut like a knife, but I didn't let them shake me. I stood tall, facing all three of them. "I didn't hide anything," I said, my voice firm. "I sold the painting for $500,000, not $700,000. And I kept the money because you gave the painting to me, Dad. It was mine." Their jaws dropped. Mom covered her mouth, Dad's eyes widened, and Danny let out a scornful laugh. $500,000? He shouted. "You took $500,000 and didn't share a cent with the family? What kind of person are you, Chris?" I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. "What kind of person?" I shot back, my voice hoarse. "The kind who dropped out of school at 16 to work construction and send money home? The kind who sacrificed his dreams so his little brother could go to college so his parents didn't have to worry about rent? Have you ever asked what I wanted? Have you ever treated me like a real son?" Mom started crying, but I didn't stop. I turned to Dad. "On Christmas Eve, you gave Danny a car. What did I get? An old painting you called precious. Did you think I was too stupid to see the unfairness?" Dad shot up, his face flushed. "How dare you talk to me like that?" he roared. "I raised you, fed you, put you through school. You're the eldest. It's your job to take care of your brother." I laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "I've taken care of enough," I said. "Now I want to live for myself. That money is mine, and I'm not sharing it with anyone." The room was tense, like a taut string ready to snap. Danny pointed at me, shouting, "You'll regret this, Chris. You can't turn your back on family like this." Mom grabbed Dad's arm, pulling him back. "Let's go," she said, her voice weary. Dad gave me one last glare, and the three of them left. The door slammed shut, leaving me in the silent room. I stood there, my heart pounding, but not from fear. I felt relieved, as if I'd shed a heavy burden. But I also felt pain, knowing the door between me and my family had closed, perhaps forever. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed, staring at the unfinished painting on the easel. I thought about Grandpa, the afternoons he taught me to paint, the look in his eyes when he talked about art. "You have the hands of an artist, Chris," he'd said. I wondered if he'd forgive me for selling his painting. Would he understand that I did it to live, to find myself again? I thought about Mom, Dad, and Danny, about the years I'd sacrificed. I wondered if I was too harsh for not sharing the money. They raised me, but they also trampled me, made me feel worthless. I tossed and turned, my mind in turmoil. At times I wanted to call Mom to say I'd share the money just to ease the ache in my heart. But then I remembered Danny's glare, Dad's shouting, Mom's crocodile tears. They didn't come to reconcile. They came to demand money, to pull me back into the cycle of sacrifice. I clenched my fists, telling myself, I'm not wrong. I can't go back. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that I was losing something I could never reclaim. The days that followed were like living in a daze. My rented room was still filled with paintings, but I couldn't pick up a brush. I sat under the yellow glow of the lamp, staring at the unfinished painting, a vibrant field I'd created to comfort myself, feeling a heavy weight in my chest. Was I right or wrong? I'd declared I wouldn't share the money, but now I wondered if I'd been too harsh. They were my family. Despite the unfairness, despite the pain, they were the ones who raised me. I remembered mornings when Mom made cornbread, the smell of coffee Dad brewed, Danny's laughter when we were kids, kicking a soccer ball in the yard. Those memories were like knives, piercing my resolve. I thought maybe I should share the money. Not because they deserved it, but so I could sleep at night. Not the full $500,000, but enough for them to get by. Enough to keep me from being labeled selfish. I was afraid that if I did nothing, I'd become someone I didn't want to be. A man who turned his back on his blood out of resentment. I wrestled with myself for a week. Each night I lay on my old mattress, staring at the ceiling, imagining calling Mom. What would I say? Mom, I'll share the money, but this is the last time? Or would I apologize even though I'd done nothing wrong? I thought about Grandpa, wondering what he would do. He loved family, but he also taught me to value myself. Would he want me to bow my head again? By the 7th day, I made a decision. I would call Mom and offer to share $200,000, enough for Danny's tuition, for Mom and Dad to pay off debts, but not enough for them to think I was weak. But then suddenly there was a knock at the door and a white envelope was slipped through the slot. I picked it up, my hands trembling. A court stamp. I opened it and read, unable to believe my eyes. A summons. My parents and Danny were suing me, accusing me of stealing family property, Grandpa's painting, and refusing to share the proceeds. They demanded $500,000 plus legal fees. I sank into a chair, the envelope falling to the floor. My heart shattered. They didn't wait for me. They didn't want to talk. They dragged me to court as if I were a thief, not their son, not their brother. I thought about my decision to share the money, the foolish hope that we could reconcile. Now there was nothing left. I didn't cry, but my eyes stung. I felt a new fire, not anger, but determination. This time I wouldn't back down. I would fight, not for the money, but for myself, for the years I let them trample me. I called Jack, my boss at the construction site. He'd always liked me, calling me kid, despite my 35 years. Jack, I need help, I said, my voice shaking. My family's suing me. I need a lawyer. He was silent for a moment, then chuckled softly. Kid, I know you're not the troublemaking type. I'll find someone. He kept his word. That afternoon, he sent me the number of Elena Martinez, a lawyer he described as tough as steel, sharp as a knife. I met Elena at her office, a small but tidy room downtown. She was short, with dark hair tied back, her eyes sharp as if she could see through everything. I told her everything, about the painting, my family, the years of sacrifice, Christmas Eve, the confrontation the previous week. She listened without interrupting, then said, Christopher, this isn't just a lawsuit about money. It's about justice. Are you ready to fight? I took a deep breath, feeling like I was standing up for myself for the first time. Ready? I said. Elena moved quickly. She asked me to bring every document, bank transfers I'd sent home, work contracts, Screenshots of the painting's forum post. "Your family will play the emotional card," she warned. "They'll call you ungrateful, selfish. You have to be strong." I nodded, but my heart wasn't sure. How could I be strong facing my parents, Danny, in a cold courtroom? I tried to focus on my painting class, but each night I dreamed of the courtroom, of Mom's eyes looking at me like I was a traitor. The court date arrived faster than I expected. The courtroom was cold, smelling of old wood, the whispers around me suffocating. I sat next to Elena, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Mom, Dad, and Danny sat across the aisle. Mom wore her old sweater, her eyes red, but she didn't look at me. Dad was grim, hands clasped tightly. Danny glared at me, his eyes full of resentment. I wanted to run, but Elena put a hand on my shoulder. "Breathe," she whispered. "Today is your day." The trial began. My parents' lawyer, Mr. Harris, a middle-aged man with a smooth voice, stood up. He called me selfish, said I'd stolen the family's legacy for profit. He talked about how my parents raised me, their struggles, as if I'd never sent a dime home. Mom cried, Danny bowed his head, and I saw some people in the room look at me with suspicion. My heart tightened, but Elena whispered, "Don't let them sway you." Then it was Elena's turn. She stood, her voice calm but cutting. "Christopher didn't steal," she said, presenting every bank transfer I'd sent home over 10 years. "He dropped out of school at 16, worked construction to support his family, sending thousands of dollars home. The painting was legally given to him by his father." She showed my forum post, proving I'd acted transparently. She called me to the witness stand. Standing before the court, I felt the world watching me. I spoke, my voice trembling but truthful, about the construction site, my dream of painting Christmas Eve when I got the painting while Danny got a car. I talked about the unfairness, how I'd fulfilled my duties but received only indifference in return. "I didn't want to sue my family," I said, my eyes stinging, "but I can't let them take what I've fought for." Elena ended with a question for my parents. "If the painting was so valuable, why did you give it to Christopher while his brother got a car?" The courtroom fell silent. My parents didn't answer. Danny bowed his head for the first time, not glaring at me. The trial lasted 3 days, tense as a taut string. Each day I left the courtroom feeling drained. Elena stayed by my side, reminding me we were winning. "They have no evidence," she said, "just emotions." But emotions were dangerous. I saw Mom's eyes, heard her sobs, and wondered if I was destroying something irreparable. The judge delivered the verdict on the 4th day. I won. The painting was mine, the money too. My parents and Danny had to pay legal fees. As we left the courtroom, I saw Mom crying, Dad holding her, Danny glaring at me one last time before turning away. I wanted to run to them to say something, but I couldn't. They'd chosen this path, and so had I. I returned to my rented room and sat under the yellow lamp. I wasn't happy despite winning. I looked at the unfinished painting, thinking of Grandpa. I'd protected my dream, but I'd lost my family. That bond was broken beyond repair. I picked up a brush, painting a new stroke, but my hand shook. I knew from now on I had to move forward alone, and though it hurt, I was ready. A year has passed since the lawsuit, and I decided to move to a new place, more spacious and comfortable. It's something that just a few years ago I wouldn't have dared to dream of. Now I'm no longer the hunched-over construction worker. I'm Christopher, a painter, a man who has rediscovered himself. Painting has transformed my life. Last month, I sold my first painting for $3,000, a starting point I once thought was impossible. The buyer, an elderly woman, said my painting reminded her of her childhood days. Her words were like a gift, affirming that I'm not just painting but telling stories through my brushstrokes. I've started being invited to teach painting classes for teenagers. Watching their young eyes light up as they hold a brush, I see myself 30 years ago sitting beside Grandpa, dreaming of a grand future. Life is now full of color. I paint every day, no longer afraid or doubtful. I laugh more, Connect with people who love art, people who see me as an artist, not a failure. But every night when the soft yellow light bathes my apartment, I still think of my family. The lawsuit closed that door forever. I don't regret my choice, but my heart still aches when I think of Mom, Dad, and Danny. I chose my path, and so did they. I've learned that fairness isn't something others grant you. It begins with self-respect, with loving yourself enough to stand up. I sacrificed for too long, forgetting that I too deserved my dreams. This journey hasn't been easy, from the dusty construction site to the cold courtroom, but it taught me that no matter how hard it gets, I can overcome as long as I don't give up on myself. I look at the painting on my easel, seeing Grandpa in every brush stroke. I did it, I whisper. I know he's smiling somewhere, and for the first time I smile at myself.